Hi guys, Yvette here with another layout using Uniquely Creative's new collection called Serendipity. This is the January collection and it's the new year, 2021. This collection is lots of pinks and whites and mauves and flowers and some doilies, and it's really pretty. So here I am creating this layout. I've cut the top sheet, which is just a 12 by 12 white cardstock, on my silhouette machine, and I've put the 3 circles in there, and I've kept the actual 3 discs that came out of that page. So I'm just going to cut it down to a little bit less than the original page. So it's about 29 centimeters, 29 centimeters, but what I want to do is have those circles in the center, not like to one, I mean they're on one side, but I don't want to cut a whole bunch off of this side. I'm going to cut a little bit off of this end and a little bit off the other end. It didn't matter with the right hand side because I wanted them down the left hand side, so I just going to take half the measurement off this side and half off the other side, so it keeps them in an even area. So once that's done, I'm going to use some of the papers to put behind those circles. So I'm just going to cut a square of paper to put behind those circles. But first, I think I'm going to do a little bit of stenciling. So I've cut the little pieces of paper here, and that's the kind of effect that I want to get with those things. But there's my little stencil, and I'm going to do a bit of stenciling with some ink before I pop those on so they don't get ink on them. So I'm fiddling around here a bit, but I've got some Distress Oxide, and I've got spun sugar and picked raspberry and a little sponge, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a mix. I was originally just going to put the spun sugar on, but it was a little bit pale, so I thought I'll just add a little touch of this, and then that was a little bit too bright for this collection, but I'd already put it on, so we just had to make do. So I dull it down a little bit with the spun sugar. So I'm just getting this stenciling down that whole side, and I kind of went over the edge of the little round holes, so that's okay to just go off. I made it actually go down the middle of each one as well. You'll see that in the middle. So I'm just doing that, and I love the Distress Oxide inks. They are really creamy and lovely. On this occasion I didn't add water, but I do like to use Distress Oxide in my mixed media backgrounds and do stenciling and stamping and add water, so they're really great for that. They're also great for this, just dry stenciling. There's some really beautiful colours, and they turn out really nicely, and it's quite easy to use with a sponge or a blending brush, and that's why I like them so much. So I'm going around the other side, and I'm going to start in the middle, and I've just got a little bit of a mixture on that brush. I've just put a little bit of the dark pink and a little bit of the light pink in there, and I'm just kind of doing a little bit further along each side, but I did start in the middle with the main one, and that'll give us a little bit of interest on the sides, a little bit of detail. And then I just wanted to show you the actual ink names up close, so in case you want the same ones. So that's them, spun sugar and picked raspberry, and a little dauber brush, and my new stencil. Anyway, moving along, we're going to add the little pieces of paper on the back with some glue. I just cut those out of the scrap paper, the pattern paper that I have, and I'm just using some tacky glue on the back side of the cardstock, and I'm going to add those on so that they show through. Okay, so we'll get those on the back and turn it over, and then I'm going to adhere the whole lot down onto the piece of white cardstock. So make sure you cut the branding strip off of that so that it's square, and this one's going to be a little bit smaller. I did that because it just gives it some weight and it gives it a nice edge, and just adds a bit more detail. So I'm just going to put double-sided tape on. Sometimes I use double-sided tape and sometimes I use glue, but I guess it depends what I'm sticking on. I don't like using glue on everything because sometimes it makes it warp a little bit, so with the dampness of the glue. So I'm just using double-sided tape. I just fold the edges over and I put a couple of pieces down the middle, so that when I'm lining it up, it's stuck down. I can stick it down in the middle once I've got it lined up, but the edges aren't all sticking on, just a little bit, and then I pull those off afterwards, and that way I'm not lifting it up and re-sticking it all the time and it doesn't get all curled up. So that's just a little tip to get them straight when you're putting a big sheet down on another big sheet. That pink stuff is just some self-adhesive foam. It's got a sticky side on one side where I'm pulling the paper off, it's sticky, and on the other side is just a foam side, so I can still move the photo around. So I'm still deciding where I'm going to put my photo. I did think about putting it on the right-hand side, but nothing really lined up, so it does get moved a little bit more into the middle. I'm just showing you there that I've used that template, that little mauve circle, to trace with a pencil around the pattern paper, and then I just cut them out with my scissors to make a little smaller circle. I was going to just distress it with my finger, but I actually find my distress tool and I do a bit of distressing on those, so that gives it a little bit of dimension as well. And I do stick these bits up on pieces of foam adhesive. So all the little offcuts from my photo and whatever I've used to use the self-adhesive foam on, I actually just chop them all up and use them as little tiny pieces for other things. So that's mounted onto the white disc that was out of the original piece of cardstock, and then I've just mounted that on top of one of the doilies and used glue to put it together. And I'm going to do 3 of those, so that's the 3 white discs that I'm using that were cut out of the original piece of white cardstock, and then the 3 little white doilies. I'm going to stick the white discs onto the doilies, and then I'm going to stick a piece of pattern paper that I have distressed the edges of onto the white cardstock disc. I have foam adhesive in between this layer, and then I'm going to embellish the top. So each one's like a little mini canvas, and I can still move them around to where I'd like to, and I decide where they go in a little while. So I'm just distressing all of those pieces and getting them all sorted so that they are ready to be put on. That side's nice, but yeah, I did use that side, so I just thought I used the stripy side, but I went with the flowery side instead, so it's a little bit different. So then I'm changing and putting my photo in the center because I thought it looked a bit heavy on the right hand side, being a black and white photo. My girls actually had red dresses on and a red shirt, so I changed it to a black and white photo. okay, I've got all of that stuck down into place where I want it, and I've decided it needs a little bit of a splatter. So I'm using the picked raspberry ink, and I've just smeared a little bit on my glass mat, and I have sprayed some water in it, and I'm just using a paintbrush. But you must cover your photo because I've had lots of accidents before. So I'm just tapping some of that just to give it a little bit more interest. It was a little bit clean and white and bright. That piece I had didn't quite sit on my photo very well. And I don't want to get any paint on my photo. So I'm just tapping some of that on in little spots and adding some little splatters here and there. You need to have a practice with that. You need to be fairly controlled with your splattering because it can go quite wrong sometimes if you're not careful. So have a little practice on a bit of paper to see how heavy-handed you need to be before you do that. So I've just got a grey pen that I'm going to add a little bit of journaling and the date with on one of those little round pieces. And I may add some more journaling a bit later on, but for the moment I'll just put that it was Christmas Day and the date on it, and that's my final layout. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial, and I hope to be back with another one really soon. Thanks for watching. Here's some close-ups for you.